I'm now joined by barrister Ousman Noor, who's also the director of the Habeas Corpus Project. It's a charity that provides free legal representation to immigration detainees. Ousman, the UK has already taken in over 100 children since January and promises to do more, so we are playing our part?
First of all, let's just be entirely clear what we're talking about. These are children as young as 8 years old. There are only approximately 900 of them in the jungle. These are children without parents, without guardians, without family members to look after them, and they've often travelled huge distances, often being trafficked in concealed lorries to get as far as the jungle. And so those are the people we're talking about here, not war criminals, not aggressive people. We are talking about innocent young children who have absolutely nothing that we should be scared of them about.
What about the fact that some have disappeared as well? What do you make of that, and where are they gone?
Well, that's exactly the problem. There is absolutely no keeping tabs of where these children are. There is a total system of absolving responsibility, passing the buck, and that's exactly what Amber Rudd has said today. It's just not our responsibility, it's the French responsibility, and France is saying the exact same thing back to the UK. It's a race, a sick race to the bottom, where no one wants to take responsibility for these desperately innocent, desperately vulnerable young children who need protection. They need our protection.
Well, how do you do that? I mean, you would like to offer that as a charity here based in the UK. How can you yourself help with Habeas Corpus Project?
Well, you mentioned 100 children have come to the UK so far from Calais. That's very few, and that has only been achieved with the assistance of pro bono lawyers actively working in the UK with pro bono volunteers in Calais and other voluntary organisations. These children actually have a legal right to be in the UK. This goes back to the Dublin III regulations, which were implemented in 2013. This says that children with family members in the UK actually have a legal right to come to the UK. Why is it that in March of 2016, 3 years later, not a single child had arrived?
So
none of that infrastructure is in place.
Some of them, those children would indeed have contacts, connections here in the UK, because obviously the Dublin Agreement says you should seek asylum in the country you first arrive at, which therefore puts the onus on France and other countries?
Well, there's an enormous disparity then between what the law says should happen and what is actually happening. And this is the problem with access to justice. You need the infrastructure, you need the applications to be made, you need language translators, you need, for these children, guardians to actually go with them to the interviews to explain to them what's actually going on. These people are often very traumatized. And this is exactly, by the way, what the Red Cross have said very clearly in their report of this month. There is a serious deficit in access to justice. No matter what the law says, it doesn't matter unless someone is there making it happen. And it's actually pro bono lawyers who have ensured that these 100 have arrived.
Just explain more about pro bono lawyers. Well, what do you mean by that?
Pro bono means for the public good. These are lawyers who have gone beyond the call of duty, most of them, not being paid to actually represent the vulnerable people who cannot afford access to justice. Really, this is something that the government should be doing far more on, and really in the climate of cuts to legal aid,
we're talking about the numbers of over
4,000
or so children. Do we have the resources and the services to look after those children when they come to this country?
Actually, it's only 900 unaccompanied minor children in Calais. So they're squabbling over
Why
dozens.
are we getting this discrepancy in numbers then, do you think?
Well, no, it's quite unanimous that there's only 900 to 1,000 unaccompanied children. Right. There may be more children who have family members, but it's only 900 that are unaccompanied. And so this bitter and quite frankly disgusting debate that's been going on about who's responsible, we're actually talking about only dozens of children. Both states have the capacity to look after all of those unaccompanied children, and yet here we are, two of the strongest states in the world, squabbling over who should take that responsibility.
Do you have any faith in the fact that Amber Rudd has pledged closer cooperation with France? In the last month, the two countries have met to discuss this crisis. Do you see any light, literally at the end of the tunnel here?
Well, it happens in the context of France deciding that they're going to shut down the Calais infrastructure. They're going to disperse all of the people over there, all over the country. And so this is a once-in-an-era moment when there really has to be negotiations about what's going to happen to those children. And so I'm very cynical that these debates are happening right now. They should have been happening a long time ago. The Dublin III regulations are from 2013. Nothing was done until this very month.
Ousman, thank you so much for joining us. Really good to talk to you about this here in the studio. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.